TJ. Welcome to Granite Skirts Podcast. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you for having me, Laura.
Yeah, of course. I'm so happy that you're here and that we're gonna get to go into all of these different topics. I'm so excited. So,
Me too.
to begin, I wanted to learn about your spirituality and your journey of like how did you get to this place that you're at now?
Yeah, spirituality at this point is very different than where I started. I grew up in the church as a Christian. Um, Pretty much most of my youth, every Sunday with my family. And then there was a point where my family was incorporated into the church and helped build a church, specifically my mom. She was our pastor and first lady at the time. She was their like go-to person, right hand woman, helping them, build their church. So I spent a lot of my youth Bible study, Sunday services, night or morning and night, um, and youth groups, things like that. A lot of my youth was in the church. So at that time, when you're young, you just adapt to what your parents are doing. So in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I'm Christian. I don't know anything else. And that's just what it was. But also within that, going through my own personal journey, there was a disconnect between what I was being taught Christianity meant versus my own lifestyle, and the two contradicted each other. So with that contradiction, I had to break away from it and figure out what it actually meant for me. I felt like with specifically my sexuality, I didn't feel comfortable being told that I was doing the wrong thing by loving someone of the same sex. That's a major part of my life. I'm like, I might need to pull away from this. So started off as Christian, and then moving forward, growing up, uh, went on my own path of number one, debunking what Christianity meant, the Bible, the things that were debatable and topics of conversations. So took a shift away from that belief into trying to just protect myself and my own heart and spirit, and not feel like I was or accepting being sort of thrown away because I didn't fit into that mold of a Christian. So around college, those late teen years where you really are able to kind of usher yourself into your own life and lifestyle and kind of make your own decisions, is where I was like, okay, let me take a step back. I'm just going to live my life based off of me, and I'm going to push the Christianity thing aside, because at the end of the day, I wake up is me. I go to sleep is me. So figuring out what I needed in order to, one, be a spiritual person, or if I even wanted to be a spiritual person. And I also feel like spirituality and religion kind of get mixed up sometimes. So going through that process of separating the two. And then at this point, it's more so I'm spiritual in the way that I need to be spiritual for myself. And that is pretty much what matters to me.
So have you looked into other religions? Like I know you traveled to Shanghai, so did that influence you at all with spirituality?
You know what? It's funny that you asked that because, um, you know, Pepperdine, there's a lot of different, or I don't know if there's a lot, but I did take a Buddhism class before I left for Shanghai. And just reading about Buddhism for a split second, I was like, you know what? I think I want to be Buddhist because this just seems like mind your business, stay quiet, keep to yourself. And even though it's like an organized, I guess you would consider it a religion, it was just like the most peaceful religion that I'd experienced. So definitely that Buddhism class where it's just like meditate, take yourself away, just like think within. That was eye open in a sense of like there are other potential spiritual paths or religions that people can take, and Christianity is not the one all be all. So that was one of the first things that solidified that, you know what, I can be on my own path and figure this out for myself.
Yeah. So when we were talking before, you were talking a lot about like trying to fit in. So I wanted to like get into that with, did you feel like you fit into Christianity when you were younger? Or did you always feel like you didn't belong in that religion?
I've so let me go back a little bit. No, okay. Fitting into Christianity, just like the journey of it, the first part of it was like the fear of death. And I feel like that is a major part of it because it's like you're born, you got to live this, and it's like it's going to end at some point. And was why are people so consumed with or consumed and fearful of this endpoint of this religion? So fitting into that, I've always had the mindset of if this is this almighty, all powerful being who is supposed to love you no matter what, why are people so afraid of this end result, which you all or everyone agrees on of like is going to happen. So in that sense, that was one of the first ways that I questioned Christianity and felt like I didn't fit into that, um, and pulled myself away from like, why am I fearing death? Why am I fearing going to this person who is my creator? Um, the next part was my sexuality. Um, I I've been gay for a very long time. Whether I've been out about it is a different story. I haven't, but having those feelings of being gay for since like I was maybe 7, 8 years old, and then going to a church where they're preaching against it, I'm like, I don't know if I fit. No, I know I don't fit in here because you all see it this way and I see it this way. And I think y'all are wrong.
Yeah, well, that's actually a really great segue because I wanted to ask you about like your journey with your sexuality and like really getting into that, like your relationship with your self-expression and how your journey of like coming out, both except in the sexuality way, but also just like being your own person, like coming out and like hello world is to me.
Hmm. Yeah. So I like I said, I've known that I was homosexual for a very long time. When I was in the second or third grade, I had a dream about a classmate, and this was also like when you're that young, getting aroused, like these things happen at a very young age, like whether people want to acknowledge it or not. I still remember that dream, and it wasn't specifically about the person, or I don't know what it was about. It was the fact that it was a another boy, and I was aroused by it. I was like, oh wait, what is this? And now I have to go to school and sit around other boys in my class and having these feelings. And a lot of it, especially back then, luckily it's a little easier, maybe a lot easier now. But there wasn't that space to explore that mentally of what does this mean. So I'm in school, elementary school, middle school, around, or even high school, around all of these heterosexual males, attracted to some of them, but also having to suppress those feelings because no one is going to accept it, and people make fun of you and people call you names, and it just causes you to, or caused me to push those things down rather than explore them. And then on the other hand, it's like, who do you explore them with? Because everyone is taught like it's a man and a woman. That is what it is. So it's like trying to change myself in order to fit into that mold. And I did that for a long time. In middle school, I still had girlfriends. I had two girlfriends in middle school. And even though I felt that I was homosexual, gay, I did actually love them and I was attracted to them. And I don't know if this is too much to say, but I did lose my virginity to a girl at a very young age, which is another story. But I did love them, and I had similar feelings with them that I had for guys, but it was stronger towards guys. Um, so middle school, that was an exploration, and I was like, let me just graduate so I can get out of here and move on to the next thing. High school, I didn't do much. I kind of just stayed to myself. Uh, but there was like, I had a gay best friend. There was this one guy in our high school who literally just didn't care about anyone's thoughts about him. Like he was the only guy on the cheerleading squad. He just expressed himself how he wanted to express himself. And he was one of those like staple influential people who I learned from, of like, I have to stop caring about what other people are thinking about me. Like, people are going to think whatever they want to think. And if I continue to take that into consideration and live my life based off of that, I'm never going to be my full self, because I'm not living for me, I'm living for other people. So greatly appreciate him being him so that I could be me. But at the same time, it's like it's baby steps. So that was high school. And then college is where I stepped out into more of who I was. but not fully because there's still that sort of tug of war of who you're trying to be versus who you are, and then also who you were. So it's kind of always those three stages. But I had my first actual boyfriend my freshman year of college. But he was more out than I was. And we were more of, or I was the closeted boyfriend. So we would hang out, but I'm like, don't touch me. Or like, we can't hold hands. Don't be affectionate. Which was unfair to him. But he was like the second staple in my life of like, stop caring about what people think about you.
Easier
Stop
said than
living
done.
for, say that again.
It's easier said than done.
For sure. Wait, what was that? 18, 19 years. Okay, I'm starting from birth, but you get the calculations. It's not 19 years. Um, the conversations that we would have and like sort of the debates around our relationship was just another push in the direction that I wanted to go in of accepting my sexuality. Also got to explore in college because, you know, that's the time that you just live young, wild, and free. So those there were some middle pieces into it. Uh, but once I graduated, kind of moved into the real world, made other friends figure things out. My first real like solidified relationship was when I made the complete shift of, this is someone I love. This is someone who supports me. This is someone who understands me, cares about me, and really fuck everyone else.
Exactly.
and, and the rest. And that was like the most incredible period of my life of like, I'm going to be out. I'm going to be public about this because why would I hide someone who I love? But then also at that time, my family, just them having that strong Christian background and not fully supporting or willing to at least support, it went against the religion. So it was like, no, I can't agree with that. Um, and there was a time, even with my family, where I was just like, no, you are not going to tell me what to post. I get it that you feel a certain type of way, but you can feel that way over there because there's also things that I feel a type of way about, but I let everyone live their their lives. I mind my business. um, and also within that, it's like, do you feel this way because of me? Or do you feel this way because you don't want other people feeling a certain way or thinking a certain way about you? Because we are connected, we're family and associated with each other. Um, so that was a long battle, uphill climb, like
Well,
you said.
yeah, I wanted to ask you though, sorry, about your family. Like, was that the first time that they even knew that you were homosexual, or was it you had like a coming out moment with them before?
So my mom knew when I was, my mom found out when I was like 17, which it happened in the worst way possible. And I can share it if you want me to.
It's up to you. Whatever you feel comfortable with.
Okay, I'll share it. I'll share it. So I think it was like 16, 17, somewhere around there. At that time, people didn't have their own laptops like they do now. We had a family laptop. My family home by myself, and I put on a certain sort of film on the laptop. And my best friend called me, and she had just gotten her driver's license. So she was going to pick me up so we could go to like TGI Fridays or Applebee's or something. So I was like super excited. Like, yes, we can finally go out because she can drive. And I left the laptop open with that content on the laptop. And my mom came home while I was out, found, opened the laptop, and then called me. And I was like, oh my gosh, here we go. I want to die. I want to die. And I had to go home and deal with it and just face it. And then also at that time, my mom prays a lot. Like my mom is still who she is. We're at a better place now where she understands it, doesn't agree, which is fine. I don't need anyone to agree, but don't try to tell me that I'm wrong. Um, we're at a much better place, but at that time, she's like a very praying woman. Like prayer is her thing. So it was I'm gonna pray this out out of you moment, and not in that sense. She didn't say that, but I knew what it meant when she like embraced me and was just like, I understood where she was coming from. So that was my coming out story to my mom. And then my family was later on in college when I actually got my first serious boyfriend where I was like, no, I'm going to do this and no one's going to stop me. So get on board or do whatever you need to do.
So what about like the first time that like you wanted to share that with somebody? Like, could you talk about that? Like your relationship, like with your relationship with yourself and like with that other person of wanting to like be that open, honest.
In terms of like relationship or with my family.
Like it could be a friend, like anybody who's the first person that you told, like actually like uttered the words out loud kind of thing.
You know what? Um, I've always had at least I feel like in middle school, I've always had like girlfriends or like women, female friends, or you get what I'm saying.
I get
In middle school, I don't know what you call them, like friend girls in middle school who I felt like they always knew in the back of their mind because I hung out with a lot of girls in middle school, high school. So didn't really have to say it. My One of my best friends who we're still best friends today, um, she knew in high school. She was also friends with the gay guy in other gay guy in high school. Um, I don't know if there was a point that I expressed it to anyone specifically, just because I felt like as friends and hanging out and being close, it was just like, you know what? I can't name specific names, but I think maybe college was around that time
Love the
where
like honest.
you were there. You were in you were in the space.
I remember then. I know what you're talking about. So no, so that's great that you're able to then fully express yourself. And so if there's I feel like it was more of like accepting yourself and then being able to. Did you say that?
Yes. Yes. And it's never a full accepting because it's always changing, and or not always, but at that time sort of changing. It was more in my adult life where it was like grounded myself in who I knew that I was. And then over the years, it becomes more like I'm not just going to sit back and let you or let someone figure it out. Like, I'm going to tell you, like, I'm gay. If you're wondering.
Yeah. So now, are you ready to play a game?
Yes,
We're
let's go.
going to play Would You Rather. So these are kind of just like all over the place, but it'll be fun. So the first one is would you rather be able to make yourself invisible or be able to turn invisible objects visible?
Make myself invisible or make.
Things that are invisible, could you like make them visible? So, oh,
Oh, that is a great question. Is this like the speed one? Or
no,
do
the speed one's later.
okay. I would rather make other things visible, and that plays into like just who I am. Um, like even and I've realized this even in high school. I was like friends with everyone, like goth people, like band people, cheerleading people, the like white group, the black group. My high school was pretty diverse, still not like completely diverse, but pretty diverse. And when I see someone who I feel isn't shining, when I know that they are a star in their own right, I would want to like push them to be like, be you, do you, love you. So I think I would want to make someone else more visible.
Oh, that's really cool. Like now that you say that, like I can see that a lot. Like in college, you would do that a lot. Oh, that's like a little mind blowing thing for me.
I've been
Okay,
pushing.
so all right, so the next one is would you rather be able to speak every language fluently or be able to play every musical instrument?
um, I think I would rather play every instrument fluently. And that's really because I wish I and this is kind of disconnected. I wish I knew how to sing like well, not just like,
You
oh,
do
everyone
sing
can
well.
sing. No, no, like you know those people who have those distinct, unique voices where it's like a Whitney Houston. I want to sing like
Oh,
that.
okay.
So my closest connection for that would be playing an instrument. Um, and if I knew how to play all of them, it would get me closer to that. With the languages, as social as people think I am, I don't know where I would use those languages. Because I would just like know them, but not actually put them into practice for who I am right now.
Well, actually, that's like a perfect little segue. Just like really quick, I just wanted to talk about like your travels because I know that you have traveled all over the world. So, like, do you was there ever a time where you wish that you knew like
Yes, yes, yes. So definitely traveling, living in Shanghai for a year. Um it's kind of twofold. On one end, uh, being 18, 19 in another country for the first time like traveling abroad, I wish I would have taken my language classes more seriously, in order to have that direct communication with the local people. But at the same time, there is also this human thing where you can connect with someone without knowing their language. And we would go out and made friends with mostly bartenders because we were partying. But we would sit at the bar with the bartenders and like play games. Like they didn't know English. I didn't know Mandarin. I knew a little bit here and there. But every weekend we became friends. And I kind of appreciate the fact that even though we didn't speak the same language, we still were able to communicate through other ways. And then traveling itself, just like tie it back to all of the other things, it really just opened my eyes to the fact that the world does not revolve around me. It doesn't revolve around America. It doesn't revolve around anyone. And there is this thing within our country where people really feel like this is the greatest thing ever when it is not. And if people traveled and explored other cultures and realized that there are people who live on a farm, who are in another country, who aren't trying to chase fame or money or the spotlight, who are living incredible lives and are comfortable with that and kind of better off than what we're doing here sometimes. I just went off on a tangent.
That got me thinking like a whole other thing too. So like I'll explain that part later then. Well, actually, I have one question though, because you're right. Like I forgot that you like lived on that farm for was it like a summer or something, and then you were like on the newspaper or something like that. So
Oh,
just like connecting, like, but you ended up being in the spotlight when you weren't looking for the spotlight. So like maybe like that's like a whole thing too. That like the thing that we're searching for will find us in the like unlikely places.
that is that's very true as well. Okay, that was random. It was a 2 week farming thing with a couple of friends. And I forget how that newspaper even ended up on that farm. But I mean, you said this previously, like exactly what you just said. Some things are just meant to be. You don't have to chase it. It might just be in your cards and come to you.
All right, so the last would you rather that I have for you is would you rather be able to control the weather or be able to control your emotions?
Oh, okay. I have, you know what? I'm going to go with control the weather because I already have lived with myself for long enough to know that I have a very hard time controlling my emotions, but I've made it this far. So it's okay. But the weather, on the other hand, the weather controls people's emotions. So I would control the weather and just make it sunny because I know that helps everyone pretty much. Like here in New York, it's been raining for the past like 4 or 5 days. And a friend reached out to me when I posted a picture of like, oh, it's finally sunny today. She was saying like how she had been like in this horrible, funky mood. And then today she just feels much better. So the sun, it's helpful for everyone. These emotions, they're gonna do whatever they want to do.
Well, I actually wanted to ask you about like living in New York because like some people like love New York because of like the white Christmas. Is
Mhm.
that feel is there ever a time that you love the snow?
Well, I'm from New Jersey, so I love all the seasons. I think it's more so when I got into adulthood. When I was younger, the seasons were great because my responsibilities weren't as crazy. So it was like, okay, I have to do homework and go to school, but it's snowing and it's raining. So whatever, it's over there. As an adult, is more taxing. But I still appreciate it. It helps me appreciate the different seasons. And I think it's like an East Coast thing because when California, no one really understands like when the leaves fall, that's like a full emotional experience within itself. Like the snow, a different experience, but it still brings like something out of myself that's just like I appreciate this change, but then it goes downhill. Um, but I love New York. New York is insane. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. When people say that, it is the truest thing possible because you will see any and everything like back to back to back.
What made you decide to move to New York?
Okay, New York move was because of the relationship that I was in. I was engaged. We were living in California. Uh, at that before here, we were living in San Francisco. We had a friend group, and somehow there was a period where we all were just like, we should move to New York. So one friend, one couple, who they're now like married with a baby, he moved here for work, and then she was coming here, and she was like best friends with my fiance, and then there were several other people. It was kind of a chain reaction, and we all ended up moving here. There was two, four, 6 or 7 of us. Like over the course of a year, we all just moved to New York. So it's kind of a let's see something different. So we pretty much all moved here within the span of a year. And then my partner and I, or ex fiance, he also wanted to move here, one to explore New York, but at the same time, my family is in New Jersey. So we were in California with his family for the beginning of the relationship. And then we came here to be closer to my family. So I love New York. Everyone should experience it at some point, at least a year, just to like understand what it's like.
I see that. So, do you think you'd ever move?
Yes. Yes. I would I want to be bi-coastal. I want a home in LA. I want a home in New York and possibly somewhere else. Uh, but moving wise, I've thought about Texas, but Texas is so, but it's so cheap.
Yeah.
And I can get like 3 times as much for what I'm paying here. I can have a whole house with like 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, um, for what I'm paying for this studio. Uh, I've always wanted to explore different places, like even before this, my ideas were obviously LA, now New York. Like, okay, I would love to see Miami. But at this point, I think if I did move, it would be like, okay, I'm going to be there for a year just to see this place, a year just to see, or none of it at all and just end up moving back to LA.
So my last question with like the whole LA New York stuff, like where do you think that you were able to like express yourself more in New York or in LA?
Able to
Express yourself?
express myself more. I think it was a wave or more of an incline. Um, I just happened to live in LA where I was walking into who I was slash am. Um, and then now living in New York is like I don't hide it at all. So I think regardless of where I was, it would have been the same. Like New York would have been the gateway for me to start my journey, and LA would have been the gateway for me to flourish, and vice versa. Um, also, the, I stopped putting myself in places where I couldn't express myself. Like, I'm not going to hang around people who are homophobic or like have an issue with me and who I am. So it it was stepping stones. And either way, whichever one would have, I think, ended up the same way.
Is with expressing yourself
You
through
wait, hold on. You know what? I'm gonna say I'll express myself more in LA just because it was harder and I was new to the scene and being gay. And that is when I was like, woo, I'm gonna go crazy and do whatever I can when I can. Now it's like I don't really need to express myself to anyone. So let's go with LA.
okay. Well, actually, this is an interesting question. Like, how do you define
How do I define?
expressing yourself?
Expressing I feel like specifically with me expressing myself in the way that I think about things. I'm like a active volcano at all times of like if I feel it, I have to let it out. If it's coming up in my body and soul and that's where I'm going, it's going to come out. Um and I think there's also levels to it. On one end it's like full expression where there's just no filter and you just erupt everywhere. And then there's like not erupting at all is also a way of expressing yourself because that could also just be silence is also a form of expression. um I do it in my work, like my job, as a recruiter. I express myself in the way that I show up for the candidates who I represent for these jobs that they're applying for. The way that I talk to my manager to advocate for them if I need something extra to be done. It's in my team meetings where I kind of reel things in for people which is something that I've learned this year of just reminding people that we are human. And yes, I get it. There's numbers that we want to hit, and there's these business needs. But at the same time, if I'm running the meeting, I'm going to tell the team to take a break, relax, walk away if you're feeling stressed, go for a walk. This job is going to be here regardless, and we never know what's going to happen because I've been laid off for different reasons. um, but we don't know what's going to happen. So at work, then also just side projects, I express myself in learning new things and creating things for myself on my own, and wanting that challenge of like, okay, you're here, but you want to be here. How do you get to where you want to be? How do you challenge yourself to do more? Like, what's that internal voice that you know that you hear that's telling me, do this? So going back to the volcano, when it comes in, I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm at least going to try.
Well, that's actually like a good. You're really really good at my segues today. That was a really good segue for like understanding how you express yourself like through your mind or like your creativity, because it seems like you kind of group together your creativity and your self-expression, which I think is amazing. But like, how does that play into the relationship with your mind?
Yeah. So I think there is the two things within ourselves is like the mind and the heart. Um, Creativity, I feel, comes from, and maybe I just thought about something that changed what I actually thought. It's a battle, because I was gonna talk about creativity and passion and say that creativity comes from the mind and passion comes from the heart. Um, and at the same time, it's like, where do those two things align in terms of getting that out into expressing where the two come together? Um, Passion. I think, you know what, I'm going to stick to that. Creativity comes from the mind, passion comes from the heart. And when the two align is when you are able to activate and go forward and put action to what you're feeling and who you are as a person. Um, now I'm like trying to think this
I feel
through.
like you're overthinking it. Just like word vomit, whatever's coming into your head. I just want to hear it.
Or this is just something that like I want to like sit and think about now. This is like, I'm rethinking everything that I thought literally
A
last
second
week.
ago. Oh. Well, think about it. Let me tell you like what I think about like creativity and like passion and stuff.
Yes.
Because I think that creativity comes from the soul, and then it's through the mind that it gets like put out there. And so it's
Oh.
interesting that you talk about like the heart with passion, because I definitely see that too. Like, you need to have that passion or else nothing's going to get done. And so I would say that that passion is coming, like your heart would be like your soul, I guess, in my mind.
And you know, that's, I was going to ask you that. Would you consider the heart the soul?
Yeah, I think I would. Well, it's kind of like what you were talking about earlier with like that inner voice that you were saying that like tells you to do something. Like, I feel like that's your heart talking, which is your soul, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the question again?
Well, we could just say like, what's your journey with like creativity? So you're talking about like having like the ideas in your mind, but then like being the heart, the passion to do it. Well, how has that been like throughout your life? Like in school, like even like at a young age, like in elementary school, like were you like really artsy and creative, or like how did that how did that whole process come of um like wanting to be in the spotlight, or like you were saying earlier, like putting the shine on others, like all of that.
Mhm.
What's your journey?
So okay, got you. I've I didn't want there was never like a desire to be in the spotlight until like recently, but it's not even being in the spotlight, it's more so wanting to reach out and like connect with people through the way that I express myself. So for example, when I was younger, I signed to a modeling agency that I didn't say, hey, I want to be a model or an actor. But my mom's manager at the time said, hey, we should take some pictures of him and send them in to this agency. Took the pictures, sent them in, and for 2 years, I did modeling, acting, and that was alone was crazy because it was like, oh wow, I'm actually on TV. And then from there, it kind of developed that passion or desire to go into acting and modeling because I being in it, you learn so much. Like when you're in something, you kind of grow and develop within it. And it's like, okay, this is something that I could do. Um, in addition to that, the creative side of me comes from my dad's side of the family. Like my dad could draw, my aunts did hair, my grandpa was a chef. Is all like creating things. And then so like through that, I've always wanted to create. Um, Mostly around real estate, and I'm like all over the place right now, but I'm seeing more of the picture. I used to sit up and watch HGTV at like 14 years old, and I would watch that show or that network, just like house development, real estate, layouts of homes, and I would put papers onto the laptop that we had and trace the larger model outline of a home and then redraw it how I wanted it to be and how I thought it would be. And this is tying back to like our last conversation around like dreaming and the mind. I've always seen myself as like, you're going to make it. You're going to be the one in the family to break generational curses and move past like being in poverty, and growing up in the hood, and that whole world. Like people don't know that there are two worlds in my mind. Today, people only see like this me, but like there is a whole nother side of how I grew up that a lot of people don't see. So I think the creative outlet came from wanting more for myself, my family, and just dreaming bigger than what was actually around me. So like mixing the drawing, the technicals over here, dreaming, and then the vision is kind of like that flow through of like, I want more. And as I continue to grow and learn, the key is your creativity. It's building something for yourself. No matter, there's no such thing as small or big when it comes to something that you want to do for yourself, because something big to this person could be small to this person, but that is their creative journey. That's what brings them happiness. That's what brings them peace. That's what is putting them in a place to be free of all of the other things around us. So creatively, I like trying new things, branching out to business ventures. I've tried everything. I've had every job besides the ones that require anything above a bachelor's degree. um, yeah.
About
Thank
that.
you. You helped me through that.
Yeah. Well, actually, when you were saying it, like I was having like the connecting dots too, because in Buddhism, we were talking about earlier, they say that desire is the root of all suffering. And I disagree with that because I feel like being human is wanting to desire, is wanting to like have
Mhm.
different things. And what you're talking about is that everybody desires something different. Like going to Miami, I would never want to live in Miami. So it's like something like that that I like you back to like your whole soul and like your mind coming together is that like they have to come in agreement of like what you actually want and then you're gonna get it. But like what we were talking about earlier, that sometimes our mind and our souls, like our heart and our mind, they don't match up. And so that's where it gets tricky. So we have to like figure out how to like get on the same wavelength between our hearts and our minds to be able to be specific about our desires, and then we're gonna get it like step of a finger kind of. So like really cool how you helped me put that together.
Yes.
But you didn't talk about TikTok. You are a huge TikTok star.
I I wouldn't say a huge TikTok star, but yes. So with that, during the pandemic, um, let me make. I want to try to shorten this as much as possible because I'm very wordy. During the pandemic, uh, I was in LA, living in New York, uh, and we were at a wedding. The pandemic hit. We had to stay with our friends for, I think I was there for a month. But our lease was ending in New York and we had to move out. So I ended up catching a flight back to move our stuff and find a new place, which was the scariest thing in the world because the streets were empty. Like it was just blank. So in the process of finding a new place and moving, I started cooking. And I was like, you know what? The TikTok is here. I don't know how new TikTok was at that time. It might have been like a year or two into it. Um, but I decided to start making these cooking videos, which initially was a joke. And I thought I was funny and I was pretty much entertaining myself because it was just me. like, and then after watching it back, I was like, no, don't do that. Don't do this. Okay, let's get serious about this. And it kind of transformed into um, a short-lived cooking TikTok channel, which also carried over into YouTube, or YouTube was actually first, and then I transferred to TikTok. Um, so that was kind of going as a creative outlet. And then TikTok just became fun. So it's just like, let me recreate this sound, let me act it out this way, do this, do that. And then when the first video goes viral, it's a mind blowing thing because you're like, oh my gosh, this is it. It's happening. It's happening. Um, so that was fun. And I tried to stick to the creative part about it. Um, but it gets very tough to stick to it when you're looking at other people's videos, and it's like, it seems like I need to switch up and do this particular formula in order to keep things going. And then with that, there was a point where, I mean, I'm still halfway banned, but
Yeah, band.
as literally every other video I posted, they would take down my sound or take flag the video for community guidelines. And it would be the craziest thing. Like during Pride, I was saying, like, I don't understand why people can't just respect other people's pronouns. Like, what is
Yeah,
it?
you got flagged for that.
Yeah, I got flagged for using, they had a filter for teeth whitening. I didn't even say anything in the video. Like, that's how crazy it was.
Oh my.
And when that consistently happens, it kind of defeats you because you're like, I've worked to build this thing up, and now everything is coming left and right. um, and I've taken like the last year off from it because it was just very frustrating. But actually, today I started posting again. And I think I'm back into my TikTok flow. And I don't know. Wait, you told me about the full moon that happened.
Yeah, on the 7th. Mm-hmm.
Yes, the release. The release is happening. I'm like, you know what? Get back into it. Do what you like. Get back out of your head of wanting the likes, and just push it out. If I want to do it, if I think it's funny, if I think I can like do it in a way that fits me, I'm just gonna put it out.
Yay, that's awesome. So, are you ready for?
Yes.
So this is the one that's gonna be rapid fire. So I'm going to just say like one or two words, sentence max, of what pops into your head when I say these.
Okay.
So the first one is balance.
Balance. Two words that pop I'm sorry, two words that pop into my head when I hear balance.
Or one word, or just like a few words.
uh Sword and scale.
Relaxation,
Sleep.
business,
Entrepreneurship.
creativity,
Gut thought.
healing,
Resting.
travel.
Fun.
My last one was fun. So what do you think? What's fun?
Doing what makes you feel good.
Love that. Yeah. So you were like on top of it with like the segue. So my next question is about like your relationship with your body. So like, what feels good? Like, do you think that that's always what's right for you to do with your body, like to have fun?
Absolutely not. That is never always, which never always. What would you call that?
I don't know, but it makes sense when you're saying it.
It's like contradicting, but it makes a lot of sense. It's
Yeah.
never always the right thing to do. I okay. Before college, I did not drink. I was the DD go-to person of like, I'm gonna take care of everyone. In college, I just like skyrocketed to the moon and partied. And that has become a part of me, which I'm trying to work on. So fun is not always right. Specifically for me, drinking. I love a good drink, a good shot, because it kind of helps me express myself more. and not take away or takes pressure off of like those internal cringes that I have being out and trying to make new friends. But it comes at a cost, and it has come at a cost for me this year. Um, Drinking, I literally had a seizure from from drinking. Um, Luckily, I was in the lobby of my apartment building, and my good friend was on his way here and was able to get me in an ambulance to the hospital. So definitely fun, and the body does not always align. And that's like an extreme case. Even in like minor cases, throwing up at the end of the night, not that I do that anymore, but just on like a smaller scale, that is even when you have to listen to your body and realize, okay, we can have fun, but let's reel it back and not go overboard.
What I was asking though, like, does your body? Because I know, because I haven't in college, I didn't listen to my body. I was just like drinking whatever, whenever. But I feel like now my body will tell me like, hey, like you've had enough. Like you can stop drinking now. And now it's just a matter of like trying to remember to listen to it and to follow through with that. So do you have like that like little voice that's like your body's like, okay, like we're good now, or is it like when you're throwing up, it's like, oh, we're not good right now?
So my body does have that, but maybe it's back to the heart and the mind of like my heart is like, okay, really, even if my body doesn't feel it, I know that there is a limit that I should not cross. I still cross it and try to remember it. But in addition to like the body and listening to the body, um, there I watched this video around he was talking about life, and he said he treats life as if as if everything his body is telling him, if he doesn't do it, he's disappointing his mom. And that's how the body speaks to you, and how to do the things that your body's telling you to do. For example, so this isn't so much about partying. It's like when you're laying in bed and you get a thought. When you get that thought, get up and do it. Because if you don't do it, you're disrespecting your mother, and you're disrespecting the universe, and you're disrespecting yourself. Because when you don't do it, you're locking the door to what's next for you, if that makes sense.
Oh,
He
definitely.
put it in a better way, but I'm just trying to like remember the points. So I think that is also relatable about listening to the body. Like if the body's saying, okay, you need to get up and clean, get up and clean. That could make you feel better, and that could lead to something else. Or you go to the gym. It sucks, but the body said, go to the gym. Or go outside and get some sun. If you're inside and your body is telling you get up and go out, going out and getting that sunlight could be the thing that it could change like that bad mood that you're in. But it's tough listening to the body.
Yeah, definitely tough. So I guess I'm trying to like understand like how like where you're coming from more with listening to the body, like how like for the gym, for instance. So I saw on Instagram you're like what, day 4, day 5? Like
Day
that.
6.
Day 6? Wow.
Day
That's
6.
amazing.
Tomorrow's day 7.
That's amazing. So, do you think that that's more of like the structure, like the discipline part, or if that's more of listening to your body, like when you hear, like, okay, like gotta go to the gym, listening to it? Like, do you think that both are required to like have that discipline, but then also listen to like the when, or is it one or the other?
Oh, it's definitely both. Because it starts off with listening to the body and that voice. That's what that's like the igniter, and then the discipline is the flame, or the spark, the igniter and the spark. Because there were times, or I feel like I'm at more of a place where I'm disciplined enough to go to the gym, and now I'm like addicted to it because I know what it does for me in terms of like mentally. But before I understood that, I was in a place where like I'm laying in bed thinking about life and all of these things, sinking into a dark place, and my body's like, you should be at the gym. You said you were at the gym 3 days ago. You liked it. You should get up and go to the gym. So it starts off with the body getting you back to that place of, this is something that is good for you. You should do it. And once you start doing it consistently and recognizing that this is good for me and this does bring me out of certain places mentally, that's when it becomes the discipline side. And then also, I can't even say it's just discipline because now it's become second nature. And it's not hard to explain, but it's just that feeling. But you definitely need both.
Yeah, it's like the quote that says that like you how is it like you don't choose your future, you choose your habits, and your habits choose your future. That's kind of like that.
Mm-mm. Well, let me write that down. Send that to me.
Oh, yeah. So actually, this is a good time to bring it up that I am so on the website. I'm gonna put up this episode. I'll put like the YouTube version. I'll put like the Spotify version, and then like key takeaways. So I'll put that in there so you can put it. And I'm also gonna put your bio so everyone can go and read it there on the website with your picture. Send me a picture.
Okay.
So before we close, I wanted to ask, like, how do you express yourself the most? Is it through your mind, your body, or your soul, or is it a multitude of them?
So mind, body, spirit, I think I'm a combination of all three, especially like being someone who is very much in their head. The mind, I'm like, I'm thinking about a lot of things, like every different angle of how something is the way that I see it. Body, it's like how it comes out. And then I feel like soul wise is in and out of, after the mind, I'm having these emotions, inner thoughts about that comes out through the body, but then it comes back in of like, this is the reaction that I'm getting based off of my body. So it's all three. It's literally just like, what is that, a neutron? Like Jimmy Neutron
Hmm.
with the
Yeah, the electrons and
that's
the
what it is.
protons.
Yes.
Yeah, that's you with everything
That's
coming.
me, literally. Um, Especially people give Gemini a hard time sometimes of like who we are. And I always used to try to go against it. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's true. Whatever's true. You don't know what's going on in here, but it's that thing of like,
The whole flip flop back and forth.
like,
But I feel like that's important too because you're able to like see things in like in a different light than others because you have the
mhm.
ability to go back and forth, whereas other people are like stubborn, like this is the only way to see it, and that's
Yeah. Oh, that we could go down that path because I
what are we gonna say? Yeah.
and maybe that's just me. But that's something that I've had to sort of train myself to think about. I watch a lot of true crime, like murder podcasts, those kind of things, and I just listen and try to analyze what is going on in this person's head that they went that far. Whereas, like, at one point in my life, I'm like, no, that's crazy, which I mean, it is so crazy. But there is that lane where I'm like, okay, let me listen to the story and vision that outcome for them. Or even like when people, let's not go to that extreme. When people go in to a store and steal something, and it could be someone who doesn't even need it. It's like they just want the thrill of getting away with taking something. So my mind works in a way where it's just like I'm trying to get to a place to understand, even though I'm not going to accept it and you should go to jail. But I can at least put myself in their shoes and also like gauge different outcomes of what it is that someone else is going through.
I think that is very valuable because that's how we become united. I feel like by only seeing things through one lens, that's how. And
Mm-hmm.
actually, talking about uniting and dividing, your grounded spirits, I would love to know if you have any tips, tricks, or anything that comes to mind of how can we become more balanced? How can we become more
Grounded spirits. Oh, I think these past 2 3 years with COVID and everything, at certain times being alone or maybe secluded with another person, it has taught me that in order to be grounded, you have to do the work on yourself first. Focus on yourself. And focusing on yourself is not the same as being selfish. Those are two very completely different things. One is I'm doing this in order to be better. The other is I'm doing this and I don't care about anything else. Like focusing on yourself and trying to work through those things because the pattern of our lives, childhood, that middle age, adulthood, and then the rest, like the important days of becoming grounded is unlearning the things of your childhood and figuring out how to be the best version of yourself in adulthood. So to remain grounded, and which is something I'm actively and struggling to work on now, is to focus on myself, figure out why I feel this way. Why do I react to certain things in a certain way? How do I want to react? Why would I want to react differently? It's exploring and asking yourself all of those questions so that you can get to a place where you feel comfortable within yourself. And it's not because someone told you to do it, it's because you recognize that this is the best way, not just for you, but for the people around you. So ground yourself in asking yourself the questions when those emotions come up, when those moments and reactions happen. Take a step back. When you're in bed, when you're feeling sad, ask yourself the questions, speak to yourself. And there was one thing that we talked about last time, like God. You are your own God. Ask your God who they are. Who am I? Why am I? So that you can fully express and understand yourself. And that will lead to your spirit.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. I had a great time, a lot of laughs. That was awesome.
Laura, thank you. This was amazing. So excited for you and your podcast and can't wait for what's to come. Great things. You're so amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm so glad we were able to do